How's it going, everyone? Sir Douglas here once again with another brand new video, and CFL season is going to be starting in a couple of days. So I figured, well, since the Argos are on the bye week this week, as what seems to be a biannual occurrence, I figured I would provide my somewhat amateur expertise into determining where the Argos might end up this year, where how the division might shape up. So yeah, it's about that time we get into the CFL predictions for 2026. And well, let's just start right here at the top with the Hamilton Tiger Cats. In as much as I want to shit on them, I can't, you know. I mean, they have a great quarterback. They have great receiving. They have a good O line that's shut me up year after year after year saying their defensive line isn't all that great. Bo's going to be on his ass most of the time, and guess what? Bo Levi Mitchell is one of the least sacked quarterbacks in the league, so they keep shutting my mouth up every single time. The only question with them is pretty much the same question that Toronto had last year, and that ended up occurring last year with Toronto, and that is in the defense. Because you take a look. Hamilton's defense was third in the division, but yet they somehow ended up first because they also scored over 500. Also scored over 500 points over the course of the season. I honestly think Hamilton, this is pretty much going to be their wheelhouse up here in the top two. I think honestly they're going to be, in as much as I don't want to say this, I think they're going to end up hosting a playoff game this year. What manner of playoff game they're going to host? Don't know. All I know is that they're going to be very much in the hunt, and they're very much going to be pretty much right where they want to be, trying to break the drought. Whether or not that happens, we'll have to wait on the season. Anyway, moving on. Montreal. Look, Montreal lives and dies with Davis Alexander. They're very much like the Canadiens back in like the mid '90s and the mid 2000s, where pretty much one player, in the case of the hockey team, it was their goalie. If that one player went down, their season went in the shitter. Montreal has to do everything they can to keep Davis Alexander healthy. I mean, you can't. I'm not saying this to be insulting or anything, because you can't deny it. He is 11-0 as a starter in a regular season game. So, but then again, you take a look. Montreal went 10-8. Those 8 losses came without Davis Alexander on the roster. The 10 wins came with him on the roster. What does that tell you? Montreal, for me, Montreal is a big old question mark. And it's just going to depend on where. It just depends on where Davis Alexander is at any given point with regards to his health. That's it. That's the be all and end all. So pretty much Montreal to me is the wild card. Next up, let's just go right out and say it. Toronto. An awful lot of questions about this team. An awful lot of questions. I mean, realistically, that number right there, 583, that points against number, that was like I said last year in the what went wrong video, that is the worst. That is the third. I believe that I said that was the worst in the league this season, and that number is the third worst in club history, and that is an indictment on the defense as a whole. The Argos needed to improve it, and I felt they have done enough to improve it by bringing back the players that were great for them over the course of their Grey Cup runs in 2022 and 2024. And, of course, their 16-2 season in 2023. But, of course, you take a look at it, it's like they have question marks at coaching, because they've had to completely overhaul their entire coaching staff thanks to Ryan Dinwiddie leaving. They've kind of cut the rot out at the top of the organization by giving John Murphy his walking papers and bringing in both Jim Barker and John Huffnagel. But of course, the biggest thing out of all this is not the fact that all that has happened. It's the fact that they're going to be spending 12 out of 18 games on the road this season. That is, I think, that's what's giving a lot of people, I think, a lot of pause on saying this team is going to be going anywhere, and that's been echoed. That's been echoed in with regards to like power rankings across the league, 3 Down Nations, Piffles podcast. Every single power ranking across the league has listed Toronto as dead last. And I'm just going to say this: you do that at your own peril, because Toronto still has Chad Kelly at quarterback, and that's another question. Like how much WD-40 is he going to need to be soaking in order to get the game rust off? But they still have a good quarterback. They still have a great quarterback room. They've still got great receivers. They've still got a half decent offensive line. They've still got like a good defensive line. I mean, losing Wynton McManus is obviously a big thing. But I honestly think this team's going to turn some heads. I honestly think Toronto is not anywhere near as bad as people are saying they are. I mean, based off of last year's numbers, of course, you're pretty much starting at the bottom, and and there's only one way to go, and that's up. So, I think Toronto is going to be set for kind of like a 2015 style finish here, where they're going to be in the hunt for the playoffs, but they're probably not going to host a playoff game. I think they might just squeak in, maybe. I don't know for sure, but that's what I'm thinking is going to happen. I'm thinking it's going to be like a 2015 style season, because 2015 it was pretty much a carbon copy of what you're going to see this year, where they're going to spend a lot of time on the road, but yet somehow they still manage to make the playoffs. Through the skin of their own teeth, they still managed to make the playoffs. Didn't go very much further than that, but they at least made it, right? And that's one of the biggest things. And then lastly, Ottawa. And talk about a team that can only go up. Ottawa very much is one of those teams that pretty much tried to out Hervey Ed Hervey in free agency. I mean, first of all, Ryan Dinwiddie is now the head coach in Ottawa, and his record in Toronto speaks for itself. 2 Grey Cups, 4 straight East Final appearances, and he had gotten himself a boatload of talent. Ottawa, they went out there and it seemed like they completely overhauled their roster. And I mean completely. Like, we're talking like there isn't much left, if anything at all, from their 2016 run. I honestly think, like, people are also discounting Ottawa at their own peril simply based on the strength of the coach that they've got in place. And here's the thing, I honestly think Ottawa might actually, I think, based off of what I've seen, based off of the talent they've gotten, and based off of a whole bunch of other factors, I think Ottawa might be in the hunt, might be hosting a playoff game this coming season. I know, it's one hell of a turnaround in one year, right? But I honestly think this, like, Jake Mayer is not a slouch at quarterback. That's a big thing. They've got weapons. They've got the ability to get there. They just needed the coaching, and Bob Dice wasn't the coach to do that. Like, he got lucky 2 years ago. He got lucky in 2024, right? And then 2025 it came back crashing back down to earth. With Ryan Dinwiddie in charge, Ottawa should just based off of him alone, Ottawa should improve from a dead last in the East. And I still think, based on where Montreal goes, I think Ottawa could very easily host a playoff game. Ottawa very easily could host a playoff game. So, with that said, I honestly think that might actually happen. So Hamilton and Ottawa are going to host a playoff game. Toronto should be in the mix for the final spot, and Montreal is a wild card. Montreal is the wild card here. We don't know. Like, it just depends with Montreal. It just depends on where Davis Alexander is. That's pretty much what I've got. Like, I'm more than likely wrong. I mean, but like I said, the whole point of this is just to guess and to have fun, right? So, and that's all I've got here. So, yeah, that's pretty much all I've got for this week. Next week, we'll be right back at it, and I'll be right back at her here with the Upon Sober review from when Toronto travels to Montreal, and Chad Kelly will be facing the team that put him on the shelf in the same venue where he got put on the shelf. So we'll see if a little PTSD happens with Chad there, but maybe not. Who knows? We'll see in a couple of weeks, and I'll see you guys in a couple of weeks. Cheers, everybody.